one of the most important times of my life where I got into the Buddha Dhamma inquiry, the Buddhist teachings and Buddhist philosophy, was when I was in college from 1980 to 83. So I was 22, 24 years, 23 years old. So that time I was studying mechanical engineering technology at Seneca College, the nuclear option. So I was getting an understanding into quantum physics and uncertainty principle, um, and seeing some parallels between Eastern and Buddhist philosophy. And at that time, at the Toronto Mahavihara, the temple in Toronto, the Buddhist temple for Sri Lankans in Toronto, which was set up by a Sri Lankan community in the early 1970s, including my parents, was a monk called Bhikku Vannasara. So Bhikku Vannasara was a very special person. He was probably 8 years older than me at the time, probably about, I think he was under 30 at the time. And he was born in England to a Jewish family and moved to Canada, and parents are doctors, lived in North Toronto, uh, went to university here, studied zoology at, I believe, York University, got his MBA there, got involved in the investment business. And in the mid 20s, he gave it all up because he went on a trip to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and discovered Buddhism. And then he realized that there was something more to life than the material life he had. And at that time, he still didn't know what to do. He became an investment banker in Toronto. So he was in the world of money and wealth creation. So he told me the stories of his motorcycle. He had a Kawasaki 900, which was one of the fastest motorcycles at the time. He said he used to ride up and down the Don Valley Parkway, which is the main highway into downtown Toronto. It's a winding highway, and the entrance to what's called the Gardiner Expressway above Toronto along the lake is a very steep curve on the ramp there. He said he used to take that bike as fast as he could, sparks flying and all that, almost having a death wish. So he said, so I was not happy with his material life. So when he discovered Buddhism, he thought that here is a path that he could take. And that's when he went to Myanmar and became a Buddhist monk in the 1970s, mid 1970s. So here he was in front of me, and I'm just awed by him at the fact that he's given up the attention that is taking all our attention right now. For most of our lives in the material world is about money, isn't it? So his attention has been taken away from money to pay attention to his own existence. And that to me was fascinating. So I had long conversations with him. I would meditate with him. And then I brought friends with me to meet him, who were Canadian born friends. And I remember one conversation this person had with him. She got really angry with him, saying that, you are just hanging around here meditating and eating off other people and not being productive. You're a waste of time. And this was a really interesting dialogue, and I saw him just being so balanced and so cool, and trying to get through to her that, look, there's more to life than this material life, and I'm on that journey. So I have the right to be on that journey, and you have the right to be on yours, and Lalit has the right to be on his. And so it was a beautiful conversation. It was beautiful conversations like this that enhanced my practice with him too. And I remember one day sitting there with him after a deep meditation and a conversation, and a motorcycle goes by, and he goes, that sounded like a Kavi 900. I go, wow, this is amazing, man. A Buddhist monk is telling me again about recognizing a motorcycle engine on the Kavi 900. So anyway, he moved to Sri Lanka in the mid 1980s, after I had moved back in 1984-85, and he looked me up, and then he said he's going up to the mountains in a area called Deniyaya in the southern hills of Sri Lanka. He said, I'm going to meditate and just go inward, and I'll come down once a year, and I'll see you when I have to renew my visa. He had a Canadian passport. So anyway, he used to come and look me up, and one time he brought me this manuscript for a book that he had written called Wind Not Caught in the Net. The Buddha's the Buddha on the nature of knowing is the subtitle. And then he said, "What can you? I would like you to read it." So I read it as best as I could. I was in my 30s. I was in the middle of business, family, social life, and yes, I did get into my inward meditation practice was there, and I used to read Dhamma books. But this book was heavy, and it was him interpreting the Dhamma teachings with his own practice too. So I knew some of it already, but also at the same time, a lot of it also went over my head at the time because I didn't pay so much attention to it. But anyway, I shared it with a couple other friends too, and he said, "Can you help me publish it?" So I did give him some feedback on the first sections, and then two friends, Ari Dasanayaka, who's no more sadly, and Barbara Jayasuriya, the three of us got together and we funded the publication of this book. We went to Dr. Ari Ratna, who was the head of the Sarvodaya non-profit, and Sarvodaya Vishwalekha published this book. And I'm going to read a small passage from this book in the beginning. And he says, it starts by saying, "We owe much to the inventor of the wheel, of course, but that is a visible thing, being in the sphere of matter. We owe infinitely more to the discoverer of this wheel, which is an invisible thing, being in the sphere of the mind." Now, these are the subtleties that were going over my head at the time, because if you don't think about it, and you try to make literal sense of this, it doesn't make sense. So I've now reread this just a couple of weeks ago. I found the book, and it makes a lot of sense now. So he says, hence we should glance at the map here first, because he's written this book to as a summary of Buddha's teachings, and he starts with a section entitled Warning Label. And the warning label itself is taken from the lecture sometimes called the Buddha's Charter of Free Inquiry. Now this is significant because nobody before or ever since has so enfranchised human beings. So given us the freedom to think for ourselves, but with that freedom to inquire freely comes a new sense of responsibility, he says. So this is why I'm so fascinated with the teaching of the Buddha Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, because it gives us the freedom to inquire and go on that journey, so we can then live and contribute with the positivity of loving kindness, compassion, empathy, sympathy, joy, of having joy for other people's success, and live that life of equanimity. So we're not a burden on this earth, burden on each other. We are taking personal responsibility for ourselves in the way we show up in the world. So I thought I'll share that with you. And then I also found to my delight that this book was the first book that was published, and he sent it to me. He gave it to me with a letter, and it says Bhikku Vannasara Singha Lena Aranya in Nellua, and that's up in the southern part of Sri Lanka. And he goes on to say, "Dear Lalit," and it was written actually in 2001, May 11th, because I think we published it around that time, about a year before that. He says, "This is just a note of appreciation of work in regard to the book. It's sketched over years. It seems reasonable that if you work to get Dhamma to people, the law of karma will make people work to get Dhamma to you in this or a future life," he says. "In gratitude, in Maitri, Vannasara." I have lost touch with him. I trust he's around somewhere in Sri Lanka or Myanmar now, I think, and I wish him well. May he be well and happy, and may you all be well and happy.